Hi there, we were in the midst of a war last fortnight, not of our own choosing, not of our want, but inflicted by a deracinated neighbor whose history books begin abruptly from 712 AD, when a loitering Arab commander, Muhammad bin Qasim, entered Sindh, thus beginning a gradual Islamization of the land at the point of sword. Pahalgam terror attack was not the first, is not going to be the last, I'm afraid. Any amount of pounding of Pakistani air bases is not going to change that psyche which governs the actions of a beggar of a terrorist state. The Americans have tried and failed. Carrying out drone bombings on Pakistani territory using Pakistani air bases did not shame the Pakistani ruling elites. The discovery of Osama bin Laden under the nose of Rawalpindi did not make a single Pakistani feel ashamed of their terror linkages. Of all people, Taliban hectoring Islamabad does not shame the stoned, zoned-out leadership of Pakistan. It's a ruling elite high on the cocktail of debt, terrorism, and radical Islamist indoctrination of the kind which won't let them come off it. It's like the withdrawal symptoms would be worse than the disease. So the Pakistani society chooses to be in a stupor. It's a choice they make. It's a choice they have made for their entire existence since 1947. They have consciously chosen to be a Shangri-La of political Islamism, extremism, and terrorism. Let me give you a glimpse of how Pakistan became the shameless terrorist state that it has become.
We are different from the Hindus in every possible aspect of life. Our religion is different. Our customs are different. Our traditions are different. Our thoughts are different. Our ambitions are different. That was the foundation of the two-nation theory that was laid there. That we are two nations. We are not one nation. So because of that, our forefathers, they struggled, mounted that incessant struggle to create this country. Our forefathers, they have sacrificed immensely, and we have sacrificed a lot for the creation of this country.
This is what triggered the Pahalgam terror attack and subsequent Indian response by way of Operation Sindoor. This jihadi speech of Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir, full of rabid hate for Hinduism, acted as dog whistle to the terrorists to carry out the Kalma test in the meadows of Baisaran on April 22. I have earlier brought to you the profile of General Munir as a radical Islamist in the garb of a soldier. From his upbringing in a madrasa to his professional grooming in the Pakistan Army during Zia-ul-Haq period of Islamization, Munir is a copybook case of a jihadi general. But it goes back to the very foundations of Pakistan, the radicalism, the Islamic extremism, and unfortunate use of symbols of Islam in aid of its geopolitical objectives. In 1947, when Pakistan launched its first war against India over Kashmir, the brutal raiders were branded mujahideen, holy warriors, and the government made mosques across northern Pakistan issue fatwas, declaring the war as a jihad against India. Pakistan had been given about 1/3 of the British Army as its share of defense forces. It was a professional army and still commanded by a British general. Yet, the road to Islamic ideological position happened from its birth. In its first year of functioning, Pakistan allocated 70% of its annual budget for defense. It remains the highest defense expenditure in percentage terms for any nation in modern history. This was on the military side. Facing the squeeze, Pakistani establishment started thinking in terms of monetizing its geography from the time of Jinnah itself. American journalist at that time, Margaret Burke White, had interviewed the founder of Pakistan in 1947. She was amazed at the clarity with which Jinnah spoke of getting America on their side by using the threat of Russians. Jinnah told her, quote, "America needs Pakistan more than Pakistan needs America. Pakistan is the pivot of the world as we are placed on the frontier on which the future positions of the world revolve," unquote. Burke White wrote in her book that Pakistani officials would openly talk of taking American loans to keep Russia from walking in. Burke White attributed the interest of Pakistan's founders in foreign affairs to the bankruptcy of ideas in the new Muslim state. Pakistan, she observed, had a policy of profiting from the disputes of others. Imagine, this was 1947. Russians made their first foray into Afghanistan in the 1970s. good 3 decades later, to have prepared all along to play a role in the great game of Central Asia, to have willingly become a rentier state, a state willing to provide services for a fee. Pakistan became a Bhaade ka tattu by choice. Pakistan became the frontline state. The United States signed a defense pact called the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, or SEATO, and later included Pakistan in the Baghdad Pact and the Central Treaty Organization, or CENTO. The moolah started flowing in. By this time, the army was in full control. First coup had brought in General Ayub Khan, and his martial law lasted 11 years, passing on the baton to another general, Yahya Khan. The way Ayub bargained with the Americans for providing services included bases for the U-2 reconnaissance flights. The Bhaade ka tattu template continued, with Zia-ul Haq using it to telling effect with Americans as Russians finally entered the Afghan theater in 1979, and General Musharraf, of course, doing it post 9/11. With every wave of Islamization came consequences for the Pakistani society: tunnel vision, extremism, failure to be in sync with world's progress in science and technology. The most telling picture of Pakistan's stunted mental capabilities came during the ongoing Operation Sindoor. Facing India's military wrath, the generals lied through their teeth to Pakistani citizens, not just shrugging off the bamboozling they got from the Indian armed forces, but also showcasing some of their ineffective retaliation as victory. Hear this.
This much talked about S-400 threat. As I mentioned, that we were giving special attention to the Rafales in the air, so we gave our remaining part of our attention to the S-400 on ground. Now, identifying S-400, attacking them is a easier part than identifying it on ground, because it is mobile, it's a high value thing, and you guard it. It's kind of a center of gravity. So we were tracking through our satellite imagery well before the hostilities, as we usually do. So we had pinpointed S-400. As you can see, we knew that this is parked. It's cheeseboard radar, and the other part of the radar, the other constituents of the whole S-4 battery. So S-400 was at Adampur, was targeted like that.
Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb Ahmed, masters in military arts from China. He speaks Mandarin more fluently than English. Like most stuffed Chinese, he misfired more than a couple of times. The marshal could not marshal his facts properly, like in this video.
If you could tell me in very non-technical terms about air defense system, what are the capabilities that Pakistan have when it comes to neutralizing surface-to-surface and air-to-surface missile systems?
Air-to-surface? Okay, this means academic discourse, a pretty intense kind when you are asking such technical details, and we'll bore the rest of the people with them. But I must, on a broad guideline, that the Pakistan Air Force air defense system is pretty capable of handling high-speed, long-range vectors, even hypersonic weapons. So this should be pretty comforting to everybody inside Pakistan.
Now, despite this hilarious incompetence, if the likes of Marshal Aurangzeb became internet sensation in Pakistan, it speaks volumes about the level of intellectual merit of Pakistani society, or lack thereof. If the Pakistanis can celebrate their complete decimation in Operation Sindoor, they might as well celebrate the 1971 war. Hang on, let's look at how they looked at the surrender in Dhaka to India back then. This is the front page report of newspaper Dawn of December 17, 1971, a day after General A.A.K. Niazi signed the document of surrender in front of General Jagjit Singh Arora. Or look at this, another front page from December 11, just 5 days before the defeat of Pakistan. The report says India had lost 120 of its fighter jets. The number by the end of war and end of all hostilities stood only at 45 Indian Air Force planes lost. The Pakistani elites were fooling with their people then, they are fooling with their people now. Hear this, a spokesperson, General Chaudhry again.
The targets included Air Force and aviation bases at Suratgarh, Sirsa, Bhuj, Nalia, Adampur, Bhatinda, Barnala, Halwara, Avantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Udhampur, Mamoon, Ambala and Pathankot, which all sustained major damages.
Not even once during this outlandish claim has the DGISPR shown an iota of evidence, something for which the people of Pakistan are now grilling the Pakistani armed forces on the internet. Finally, the bluff of Pakistan was called with Prime Minister Narendra Modi visiting the Adampur Air Base, the same base which China-trained Marshal Aurangzeb claimed to have been destroyed in Pak air raids. Do you look at the backdrop of Prime Minister Modi? That is the S-400 air defense system, along with MiG-29, standing tall as the PM addressed the Jawans and the nation. A day later, Pakistani PM Shehbaz Sharif was escorted to a Pakistani air base, the Noor Khan base in Islamabad. Look at the picture. The convoy avoids runway and takes dirt tracks because obviously the runway is broken by the Indian Air Force. Also, look at the backdrop, a shoddy flex banner, and the tanks, which were not even used in the battle. The Pakistanis trying World War era propaganda with their own people. Good luck to the fools. The fact that platforms like the New York Times and the Washington Post had to carry stories is strongly supporting argument that India inflicted one-way damages on Pakistan during Operation Sindoor and not vice versa is evidence enough for posterity, given the fact that these platforms are typically not pro-India. That brings me to where do we go from here? The new normal means every time there's a big terror attack, India would respond. India would go after Pakistan-based targets. India would respond militarily. Operation Sindoor and the ancillary diplomatic offensive ensures that the cost Pakistan pays for every terror attack goes up. Remember what I said at the beginning. In 1947, Pakistan's 70% of the budget went to its defense. That's a good way of pauperizing and already tottering on the brink Pakistan. Let's keep lowering the threshold to go after Pakistan. Let us, for example, keep a retaliation matrix ready with, say, 50 small and medium targets inside Pakistani territory that we hit within 24 to 48 hours of any terror attack happening in Kashmir or elsewhere in India. Make ceasefire violations punitive. Every round of bullet or artillery fired at the LOC comes at a cost. Let Pakistan defend itself with some cost escalation. Pahalgam is not the last of the terror attacks we have seen, unfortunately. Pakistan draws its ideological sustenance from being a roadblock to India's success. The thousand cuts thesis for thousands of years is so internalized in the body politic and psyche of the Pakistani mind that while we keep raising the cost with each terror attack, it is unlikely that those would stop. And so the time has come to integrate a Pakistan project within India's 2047 Viksit Bharat mission. Viksit Bharat won't be possible unless the Pakistan problematique is sorted. Pakistan's map needs to be redrawn. We need a Balochistan version of Operation Cactus Lily, Operation Trident. We need the 21st century version of Operation Trident. And make sure by the 100th year of our independence, when we have lifted ourselves into a developed country status, by when we have hosted one summer and one winter Olympics Games, by when we have taken care of our masses befitting an evolved society, we have also taken care of Pakistan, reducing it to a Punjabi rump not capable of harming India anymore. A defanged, dry, deserted Pakistan which stops being the migraine for the world. It is India's destiny to deliver that. We should make sure we do it. Thanks for watching.